Hello everyone, welcome back to Metanoia. My name is Carrie Jane. It has been a very long time since I've made a video on crystals, and so I want to get this in before I start the next project. Before I start talking about this video, let me first thank everyone who has been watching my series on my playlist, my Numerology 101 playlist. That is going to be wrapping up this week. And after that, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing, but I think it will be on numerology, most likely repeating numbers, because that's a very hot topic, something that we're all going through. So stay tuned for that. If you're new to this channel, welcome. This is a video on crystals, but it's not my specialty. Numerology is my specialty, so check out all the content I have on that. So, okay, let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys some crystals that I use for protection. But before we get into the specifics, I first want to go over some preliminary concepts of crystals for protection. What should we be thinking about, or what should we know before we dive into this topic? And the first thing that I want to go over is, what are some things that we need protection from, first of all, right? It seems kind of a broad thing. What can crystals protect us from exactly, I think, is a better question, or, leading from that question. And my answer to that is, generally, crystals are used for protection from negative energies. So that could be from other people, could be from other places, or, and I don't think this is acknowledged enough, it could be protection from ourselves. And often I think it's actually, excuse me, often I think it's actually ourselves that we need protection from more often than any other external threat. But I think that if you're an empath, first of all, you're very in tune to nature, which means you're very in tune to crystals, so that's why this works for you. But at the same time, we're very sensitive. We walk into environments that are very stressful to us. So I think that's why empaths and people who are on a spiritual path in general are drawn to crystals in the first place, because we need tools. We need tools and we need help. Now, how do crystals help us exactly? I think that there are many methods. I'm going to go over 4 main methods that crystals protect us from. But, sorry, this is a little bit disorganized. First, before I mention those 4 things, let's say, let's identify what we don't need protection from. What should we not be using crystals for protection? And I think that this would be things disguised as lessons, bad luck that turns out to be good luck, and the truth. We don't need protection from the truth. There's situations that are that the way they are. Maybe we don't agree with that. It is the way that it is. We don't need protection from that, okay? We just need radical acceptance, essentially. Now, there's also situations that I said before, are, lessons. And there are people in our life that we can't just cut off completely and abandon and never see again. We have to be around them every day. And these people are lessons, okay? You shouldn't buy a rock so that someone never talks to you again. Although I'm laughing because it's like I need to take my own advice sometimes. I mean, I would never try to use something like a crystal to have avoidance. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I think that people buy crystals for avoidance. It's like, oh, I just don't feel like thinking about this thing. I don't feel like trying to wrap my brain around this thing, or so on and so forth. They just want the thing gone. But it's like, you might need that thing in your life. you might need to be a little bit uncomfortable in order to learn whatever it is that you're supposed to learn or do whatever you're meant to do. So those are some things that you don't need protection from, or what you shouldn't be using crystals for protection from. So having said that, let's now go on to a few ways that crystals can protect you. And the main ones are shielding, absorbing, cutting cords, and transmutation. Now, the mechanism that this works, and this is not just for protection. I need to make a separate video on how crystals enhance our lives, and through the lens of science. Like, basically I need to make a video on the science of crystals, but the mechanism in which these crystals help us with protection is what doctors basically call the placebo effect. The placebo effect is what happens when you are given some sort of treatment. Could be something you're taking orally, or it could be almost anything. And in a controlled experiment, the person is told they're given something else, but they're just given, for example, a sugar pill instead of Advil for their pain. And somehow magically that person feels less pain, even though they didn't receive the actual medication or the actual treatment. That is what the placebo effect is. And so I recently watched a video on crystals, and there was some scientist, I think a doctor specifically, trying to rationalize the whole thing based on what he has seen in terms of crystals and like how people have been impacted by crystals. And he used the term placebo effect. And I was not against this because we don't really know what the placebo effect is. It's a little bit spooky. There have been certain trials where people just seem to be able to heal themselves because when they were given like sugar pills, and their ailments were just gone. So I think science is like, whenever science doesn't understand something like the placebo effect, it's just like, let's just ignore it. We're not gonna look at this anymore. And every doctor that you talk to, or every scientist that you talk to, will have a different opinion on the placebo effect. But what I'm trying to get at here is there's something a little bit spooky going on, and we have more power than we think. And we have more ability to take control of our healing and our sovereignty and all kinds of stuff. More power than we think that we have. So the way that crystals work is they help us activate and attune to whatever energy that we need to be in tune to have something happen in our lives. So when you work with a crystal, it's actually not the crystal that is making all the magic happen. It's you. It's you working with that crystal, having something that's maybe activates something inside of you. That's like, oh yes, I remember that energy. I'm going to stay in that energy. And it could be on a conscious level, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, most of our lives in this esoteric existence does not exist on the does not exist in the conscious. It exists in the subconscious. Everything that we're not aware of, which is like almost everything, because there's such a tiny, tiny piece of this existence that we're actually 100% aware of. So I just want to start out with that because I think people, and I've explained this before in all my other videos, I think people use crystals for protection and crystals for anything in their life just so that they can like buy a thing that will fix everything in their life. They don't want to do any work. They're not like, super sensitive. They just want this item in their home or on them as decor. They think it's pretty, and that's it. And I'm here with the unpopular opinion as always, trying to tell people it's not that simple. and it just doesn't work like that, period. Sorry. So yeah, okay, now that I got that out of the way, I'm happy to start showing you guys some of the crystals that I like to use for protection. So the first crystal I'm going to show you is actually my favorite crystal of all time, and that is selenite. And you can also find this in my crystals playlist. I think it's in my top 5 favorite crystals video. I use this for shielding and transmutation. Selenite is also called liquid light, and it's often used with black tourmaline for protection, and I have some of that, and I'll get into that later. But in my experience, it does not have to just be used with black tourmaline. It's fine on its own as well, but everyone's different, so they'll prefer something else. Selenite is really interesting because in its chemical formula, it has 2 water molecules, and water is a very interesting substance. Recently I posted a video on my Facebook page about how water has memory. So I didn't know that when I first got into selenite. I didn't know there was like basically water in here to some extent on an elemental level, but basically I was not surprised either when I found that out, because I have a very deep connection to water, and I think it's just a very sophisticated thing that we haven't really quite figured out yet. So there it is, selenite. And I have a visualization that I specifically use for protection with selenite, and I highly encourage anyone who's watching right now to develop a relationship with your crystals, and if something comes up like a visualization, use that. And that will basically be what you're meant to do with that, and not just from what we can get from books and online and etc. It will take spending time with your stones and kind of being in a daydream sort of states to find what's right for you. But anyway, I digress. Selenite is something I use in my visualization for protection because it feels like a very powerful stone for me. I feel like I can effectively shield myself with this. So when I'm in a stressful environment and there's a lot going on, there's a lot of physical stimuli and I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed, what I'll do is imagine that I have this rod of light, basically, selenite, and it's so big, actually, that it's kind of like Gandalf's staff. And my visualization is that I take this rod of light, I hit it on the ground, and then 2 things happen. Light reverberates from me, and it fills my space so that nothing except that can exist in that space. Second, upon contact with the ground, I summon in my visualization a shield. And in this, it's a shield. I don't like to use the word bubble. I know lots of people who like to imagine this pretty pink little bubble that just encases them in awesomeness, and it's like, it doesn't feel safe to me then. I feel like someone can just go up to it and like boop, and then it's popped. And that's why I like to use selenite and have a little bit more power behind the visualization to make it feel more real and more solid and protective. So that's my visualization for selenite. If that sounds like something that would help you, go ahead and take it. But like I said, work with your crystals and find out what's best for you. A lot of the crystals that we're going to talk about from here on out are to help with things like EMF radiation, or radiation that comes off of technology and can be draining to us depending on who you are and how sensitive you are to these things. So the next thing I want to talk about is black tourmaline. And black tourmaline is, as I said before, often used with selenite. It's good for absorbing negative energy. I like to keep this guy on my Xbox. It seems happy there. I think a lot of people like to keep black tourmaline on their desk around their technology at work or wherever the heck you have a lot of stuff going on. And it's kind of like an all-purpose stone with protection. I think that it doesn't have to just be used for EMF radiation. I know a lot of people who have used black tourmaline for all kinds of things. My favorite form of black tourmaline is actually when it occurs in clear quartz. And I actually found this. I found this little guy on the beach where I grew up, basically. And I was so excited. I do want to get myself a bigger piece eventually and have maybe like a generator or a pillar. But this is my favorite form of black tourmaline because the quartz, anything that you put with quartz actually enhances the stone. So this has always felt like extra, as the kids are saying these days. So the next crystal in this list is a very basic one. It's obsidian, which is just like lava glass. It's silicon dioxide and it's used for cutting quartz. It's interesting that it's used for cutting quartz because it can actually be used to make a sharp object like a knife or a spear. You can find spearheads, obsidian things in many places. And I like to use this specific stone as a totem. I don't have a logical explanation. That's how I use this. It is a symbolic thing of importance to me. And yes, I use it for cutting cords when I need to do that. But to me, having spent time with this, there's something about the stone that is very totem-esque, if that makes any sense. I know that a totem is usually supposed to be like a carving of an animal, you know, or just a symbol in general. But I think in my opinion, a totem can also be an object, and it will mean something to everyone, you know, it'll mean something different to everyone, I should say. And there is a very, very cool legend about the Apache tear in Native American culture. And Apache tears are basically obsidian. They're just a different shape. So look that up. I've also read a lot online about how obsidian can protect us from our own ego. Like it's supposed to be some kind of truth stone. So maybe when I feel like this is a totem to me, that's why, because that's something that I do naturally. I'm very much always confronting things that are of ego. I'm just confrontational in general about, you know, what is truth and exploring that concept. So that was very interesting to me. I learned that after I bought the stone, and you will probably find material about that if you look this up. So yeah, if you feel like you just have a lot of like negative stuff going on in your life and it's from people like friends that you just don't want to associate yourself with anymore, obsidian might be a good stone to use whilst keeping you in line, like keeping you in check with yourself. You know, asking yourself, is this issue am I just creating this issue? Is this my own ego consciousness, or is this actually, you know, something else going on here that's beyond me? I think this would be very helpful. The next stone is also a favorite of mine. In fact, if I do another video on favorite stones, I'm sure this will be in it. And that is hematite. This is a very good absorbing stone. And to me, I feel like this just takes everything everything negative out of me, my body, my emotional body, my mental body, or a space in general, and it just like eats it up. It's so strange. And it is magnetic, so maybe that's why. Maybe I'm just like sensing that magnetic pull with the iron. And yeah, that's the thing. It's mostly iron, I think. Let me check here, I wrote it down. Yeah, it's an iron oxide. So basically when you find hematite, it's not gonna look like this. It could be this color, but it's also a lot of the time red because of the iron, and it's magnetic. And iron is so common in the earth, so, and it's one of the oldest stones, basically. So I think that hematite has more healing potential than it's given, I guess, credit for. I just love it. I have it on me almost all the time. I feel weird when I don't have it on me. It's also a very good grounding stone. So if you feel like you're getting ahead of yourself somehow, if you have a lot of anxiety, if you have a lot of worry, this is it's an awesome crystal to have on you. I highly recommend hematite. I think it's really easy to become a little bit hyperactive, like not just having worries or anxieties, but when you're sensitive, you ever feel like you're short-circuited, or like it's almost like the air is full of excitable energy and it gets in you. It's like energetic caffeine. If you ever feel like that, and if you're sensitive, you probably do feel like that from time to time, hematite is really good for that. It's also a really interesting stone because I think in like ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, I read, it was used to help with wounds, like to help reduce bleeding in wounds. And that makes a lot of sense because it's freaking magnetic. It's got iron, the stuff that we have in our own blood. If you put a bunch of these guys in a bowl, they'll all stick together. So that's really interesting that they used the stone for that. Of course, who knows how effective it actually was, but they seem to have known, oh, this is in our blood. We should be using it for that. So the next specimens I'm going to be showing you have become very, very popular. You probably already have heard about it, and that is organite. And it comes in many different forms. It comes in pyramids like this. I actually did not buy this, so I don't know what's actually going on inside. But usually if you go into a metaphysical store, what you'll see are, this resin pyramid with crystals inside and a copper or just like metal coil on the inside going up and like a crystal in the center. The idea is that positive ions are attracted through the bottom, the base, and they come out as negative ions on the top. And positive ions are said to be bad for your health. There is a theory that it actually increases free radicals in the body, which can lead to cancer. And positive ions are what happens, for example, when you have electronics everywhere, a lot of electricity in the air, like when a thunderstorm comes through. You know how a lot of people have like joint pain or headaches or just like a bunch of health issues that come up when there's a storm coming, like a really bad storm coming, and you can actually kind of sense the like electricity in the air. That's a bunch of fucking positive ions. So there is some science to this. Positive ions do, we don't really like them that much. To what extent it really negatively impacts us, of course, we may not know at this point, but there are a lot of examples to show how they can negatively impact us. So having one of these guys is really cool. And I have a few, actually. This is the one that was given to me that I keep in my bedroom, but I also have this guy. I keep him on, let's see, I keep him on my Wi-Fi box. And he's small, but extremely powerful, because on the base, he has like this shungite crystal. And then in the resin, you have this coil, this metal coil going around the top, as well as metal shavings I can see in here. Not just copper, looks like something else too, maybe like nickel. So it's like a copper nickel combination going on. And I really like it. I'm not sensitive to EMF radiation. I don't feel it that much, but I do believe that there's a lot to our technology that we don't completely understand yet. And so I do take these precautions, and it's like, why not? You know, like, what harm in putting something like this on your Wi-Fi box? You never know. And I like this a lot. This is very good. I buy this off of like Etsy. Find a reputable Etsy shop. Get something like this off of Etsy. Don't like buy something from India, like some random country somewhere that's trying to make money off of white people. There's a lot of those. Like, don't do that. Like, go on Etsy, you know, support small businesses, and you will get a good product, because the people who make these really care about what they're giving to you, and they really believe in the healing potential. So that's what you want. So crystals do not just have to be a specific type to protect us from negative energies. They can actually just be a certain shape. And as we saw with this pyramid organite, you could just get a pyramid shape of any crystal that you really like. This is moss agate. So I bought this with the intention of bringing some healing earth energies into my space. If I had the money, I'd buy one that's like this big, because I love anything with earth energy in it. I love moss, agate, any crystal that's like pro-earth. Like, that's why aragonite is one of my favorite crystals. It's called the conservationist stone. I resonate with anything like that. So if you have a favorite crystal, get a pyramid shape of it, and that will actually help bring some positive energy into your space. It doesn't, what I'm trying to say, like, it doesn't just have to be us trying to, you know, transmute energies, block stuff, you know, shield us. It doesn't just have to be that. It could just be like, you know what, I'm gonna fill this space with so much good energy that nothing else can exist in there. And so that's what you can do by just getting a crystal that you really like in a pyramid shape. He's so cute. Look at this little guy. Ah. Ooh, almost focused there. Yeah, I struggle all the time with these videos because it focuses for seconds, but nothing more, not a long time. But yeah, I hope you guys get the picture. The base is really cool. No? Maybe? Okay, I tried. The next crystal I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because I don't think it's traditionally used as a protection stone. I think that when I got it, that's just like one of the first things that I got off of it, and ever since then I liked the idea of it and I kept going with it. And when I'm having a hard day, when I feel like I'm getting myself down, or I know I'm going to be in a situation where I'm not going to be very happy, I bring this stone with me, and that is prehnite, specifically with epidote inclusions. Look it up online. It's got a lot of cool information on it. But I have just been obsessed with this stone. I don't just use it for protection. I use it for like everything. And this camera is not getting the full color of it. It looks like a pale green, but it's a very vibrant, almost blue-green color. and it's got like a lot of water energy in it. I'm just gonna tilt the camera down a little bit and try to show you if it'll focus. Yeah, the camera is like, it's just so, it's so pale green in the camera, but it's really a vibrant, very vibrant green. And check out my Instagram, actually, because I have pictures of it there, and that's a much better representation of it. But I've read about it. They say it's a good traveler stone, so perhaps it's a good stone to have you when you're traveling and you want protection on a big trip that you're going on. But as I said in the beginning about different kinds of protection, I think prehnite with epidote inclusions is best at protection from yourself. We're kind of in this level of consciousness now where we're starting to accept that we're creating our own reality. I have another video coming up eventually on that, how I feel about that. More about it being a co-creation. But we are starting to kind of realize, like, a lot of this has to do with us. And so if you want protection, I think that it is less about being in this fearful state, right? We get into these dense negative states in our own heads because it's hard being a human. It's just going to happen to anyone. And we need help. And to me, this is my help. This is my little prescription for that. And if you find something else that works better for you, please do that, as I've said over and over again. I'm sorry for being so repetitive. I think you guys get the picture now. So that was everything that I had to show you. I have like a pile of stones here. I'm looking around. I don't see anything else. I don't think I missed anything. But I just want to kind of wrap this message up by saying that the best thing that you can do to protect yourself is to not be in a victim mentality. You need to be in a state of mind where you're not giving anything or anyone your permission to be treated a certain way. And send that message out. Like, it's weird, but I think people subconsciously pick out on it. When I'm in a difficult situation where I don't have much control in my external environment to change a situation, which is my entire life basically, and I'm sure anyone watching this can relate. If you're in that kind of situation, mentally and emotionally send out, you do not have my permission to treat me like this, period, done. And then when you stand in that power, you might even find yourself where you're saying the right things now. You're saying the right things. You're not just sending that energy back to them, whatever the heck that they're sending you. You're stopping that line of communication in the first place. You're stopping, the intent of that attack. You cannot fight fire with fire. You have to deprive it of oxygen. And when you stand in that power, you are sucking that oxygen out of the air, right? Because when someone's mad at you or someone wants to manipulate you or do whatever with you, and then you let that overcome you and then you just send it back out at them, guess what's going to happen? That person, or even that event, that situation, it doesn't have to be a person, is going to take that in, and the world or the person is going to send that right back at you. So as soon as anything happens to me that's like that, that's the very first thing I do. I get out of my victim mentality, like, oh, poor me, or oh, why is all this bad stuff happen to me? And I just say, no, this is not allowed in my space. I'm not going to just be passive about it and just leave no room for anything except that intent. And, let me know what you guys think about that, and let me know if you have any questions about that. I feel like that could be another video, or I left something out about that. Let me know if you feel the same way. or if something else that you've done works best for you. And thank you so much for watching. If I haven't mentioned before, I do take requested videos to make sure that I'm actually producing content that you guys want. So if you have a question that's relevant to this channel, please leave it in the comments or find me on other social media accounts. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, etc. I'm a numerologist, so as I said in the beginning of the video, check those videos out. If you would like a reading with me, please check out the links in the description. I have an Etsy shop, which explains everything, but I also do readings through Patreon, and those are monthly readings, where I give you guys a sort of forecast on a collective level, and then I look at your birthdays and I tell you what's going on. And that's a monthly thing, and it's very nice to have that community and that, something to look forward to throughout the year. As always, please like, subscribe, comments, and if you actually want to know when I post a video, you have to click the little bell. YouTube, unfortunately, doesn't tell you when I post a video. It's only if you click that bell that it'll send you a notification that, hey, Metanoia has a post or an upload. It used to be that if you just subscribe to a channel, obviously they're going to assume that you want to be notified, but not anymore. So if you're a follower of my channel and you actually like to, stay with everything, please click that bell just so that you know when I've posted something and you're updated. And I'm sorry again for making such a long video. I just have a lot to say about things and I get off on tangents sometimes, so I apologize. But again, thank you all so very much. I hope you're doing well out there. I love you guys and I think about you all the time, and I love reading your comments and, seeing the new people coming in. So yeah, take care and I will see you all very soon. Bye.